Once again, it's your friend Sizwe. I want to welcome you to What They Do. What They Do. What They Do. What They Do.
Curry chicken.
What They Do.
You heard that?
Now you know what they do. What They Do is a place where we say, what's up, what's poppin'. It's a Miami slang, and that's what it means. What's up, what's poppin', what's going on. And today, we say what they do. I got a guest today, and I'm honored for him to be here because I'm sure he could be doing a lot of other things, more important things, than to come on my podcast. But maybe it means that he values what it is that we do over here, and he's given us that time. I want to introduce the Honorable Chandradath Singh.
Thank you.
Mr. Singh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good.
What
buddy.
they do.
I'm doing good, and I'm happy to be here in your program.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to, that you've come and given us the time to kind of talk to us about some things. You know, I think that the audience needs to hear from you with your perspective as wide and as far back as you go. So, for those who don't know, who is the Honorable Chandradath Singh?
Well, I'm many things put together, both in the cultural side and on my professional life. But I know your program is focused on culture and soca and music. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that side of me. But apart from that, I spent more than 35 years in the diplomatic service of Trinidad and Tobago and been posted to several countries. And in all our postings, Anita and myself, my wife and I, in addition to promoting Trinidad and Tobago trade, investment, and tourism, and representing the country in all aspects of national life, we have found times in all our postings to promote TNT culture. And I found the best way to do that, short of having a cultural attaché or somebody who is a real artist on the staff, and given the fact that the government of Trinidad and Tobago don't always have the kind of funding to keep sending artists abroad, I find that our own personal experience, belonging deeply to the cultural scene, both on the promotional side and the performing side, that we are able, or we have been able in our postings, to effectively promote Trinidad and Tobago, all elements of Trinidad and Tobago culture. Mm-hmm. So that's me.
Okay.
That's me on the professional side.
Okay.
As a promoter of Trinidad and Tobago's trade, investment, tourism, and everything else that the nation needs to build itself. I've spent a lot of time mainly on my personal side because, you know, I wasn't appointed as a cultural attaché or anything like that. But because Anita and I are so deeply involved in the culture, we spent an enormous amount of time helping artists from Trinidad and Tobago, first and foremost, to help to facilitate the artists. Because sometimes diplomats representing the country forget that whether you are a cultural attaché or you know culture or you don't, that you have a responsibility to help to create an easier world for our artists to go and perform and build their careers abroad. Because ultimately, whether you choose to help an individual artist or the artistic community or not, the promotion of TNT culture is in the interest of the country, economically and otherwise. Mm-hmm. So in short, I've spent a lot of time in many countries promoting Trinidad and Tobago with this focus, with this mindset. And it's worked for us and it's worked for the country.
A little background. You are the former Consul General.
Yes.
Here in Miami.
Correct.
You are former ambassador to China.
Yes.
And the former ambassador to India.
Yes.
Did that afford you the opportunity to do it? Was that what afforded you the opportunity to do, as you said you've done for your career, enriching or bringing forward Trinidad, specifically called Trinidad culture, by way of music and the arts?
Yes, because eventually, in addition to what I said we do, one of my strategy is that when we when you're posted to particular countries like India and China, where the market for cultural products are huge, but needs to be penetrated. I found one of the techniques that Anita and I have used is I always identify a top performer from those countries. The Bollywood guys, or in China, some of the top Chinese performers, and I play with them. I invite them to the residence, and I play with them. That creates a kind of penetration of the culture that wouldn't necessarily happen if even you spend a lot of promotional money. Because natives in those countries, the inhabitants of those countries, when their top artists are performing or engage in some fusion music, they take interest. So I was able to export 100 steel pans to China before I left because I played the pan.
Okay.
And I played the pan with some of Chinese top musicians.
Okay.
That creates additional interest. To me, that's an effective way to promote your culture. You can send many steel bands and Indian orchestras and other groups from Trinidad and Tobago to perform abroad. And they perform in a major hall, have a great show, and the people enjoy it. But unless those people begin to feel what that instrument or that soca or that calypso is all about, unless you get them to participate with you, there's a gap missing. It becomes a variety show otherwise. But when they see how that instrument or how that music can work for them in their culture, in promoting their items, it makes a big difference.
Are you responsible for bringing pan or at least the level of pan that they have now to China? Was that part of something that was your initiative?
Yes, because we had a Panland, the big steel band manufacturer in Trinidad. They had an agent in China for many years who didn't sell a single pan. I went to see that agent and spoke to the agent, and he said, well, I don't even have a pan in my shop. If I get an order, I have some literature and some posters. If I get an order, I will order the pans and say, it doesn't work like that. So I took over. I realized this guy wasn't going to promote the pan. He didn't have the capability to promote the pan. So I used myself, the pan that I have, to have many sessions to get the right people on board, to intensify their interest in the instrument. And that led to importing a full steel band from Trinidad. I brought some of those people to Trinidad Tobago Carnival, and we got them VIP passes to come close to the instrument and see pan in panorama. That's a magic that wouldn't happen otherwise. And also to give them the option to purchase the instrument, to check out the market and the manufacturing and all of that. What led to that was the fact that when I was ambassador, I was invited by a school, a primary school in Beijing called the Ritton Park High School. They had a steel band. A teacher from that school Googled steel pan, took sheets of iron and made a full steel band.
Wow.
And we have a video with me playing with that school on my pan. There was a big cacophony sound. But you should see the show the school children put on with their band performance. It just shows that the market is there if you can penetrate it. If these people can go to the extent of using flat iron sheets to create steel pan instruments, you can imagine if you get the real thing. So that led me to intensify the efforts to get them to import more pans.
Okay.
What we have to do in addition to that, when I brought them to Trinidad and Tobago and they bought pans and take back in addition to the 100 pans I exported, what will help is if we can appoint a tuner at our embassy in Beijing. Because a lot of this, before we exported these genuine pans to China, they were buying pans out of Toronto, out of New York, where we have many steel band sites. But they were buying second-hand pans.
Okay.
Probably pans that were rejected by the real pan people in
these places.
in North America and in Europe. And so they had a bad experience. Because by the time those pans got to China, and they can't tune it themselves, you know what kind of sound you're going to get in the end. And that's not in the interest of promoting steel band. People must feel for the real tuning quality, the real quality of the pan. And then the interest will grow stronger. That's what I did.
You know, I think that's interesting, and I think that the effort that's required for to bring out our products is one that needs that level of support, right?
Absolutely.
To get that, because the music itself is world music. It belongs to the world.
Sure.
And that effort, I want to commend you for that. You talked about playing pan, but I understand that that you met Auntie Anita playing pan. But maybe you can speak to that. How you were in India and playing pan, because it's going to bring me to another point. I just want you to know I know a little bit about you, but let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, that's very interesting, and it goes back to the point of promoting Steelpan. When I was a student in India 51 years ago, there was this, you remember Taspo, the first steel band that ever left TNT?
Okay.
Taspo steel band members, of course, remained in England and never came back home. One of the Taspo tenor player ended up in Vietnam, playing for the soldiers during the war and making his living. When the war was over, he tried to make his way back to London and got stranded. He arrived in Delhi and went to the Trinidad and Tobago High Commission and asked for help. And they said, well, we can't help you, but there's a young student on the campus who is very deeply involved in culture, so they sent him to me.
Okay.
And I kept him at my place, and I raised some funds for him, and I gave him some funds of my own, and wish him well. He gave me the pan, the original Taspo pan.
Wow.
That he used in Vietnam for many years. I refused to take it because I understood the sentimental value of that instrument to him and generally. An original Taspo pan, but he insisted that I have it.
Wow.
So now I began with my, you come from TNT and you're a musician, you must be able to hit some notes on the pan. So I began to play that pan around India. I crisscrossed India as a poor student using that pan.
Wow.
I'll go to a restaurant and say, give me some food and a place to sleep, and I play this instrument for you. And it created tremendous interest, the uniqueness of the instrument. And so Auntie Anita when she came, she was doing a program on Indian television called Windows of the World. And she wanted to interview cultural people from different embassies in Delhi. And when she went to Trinidad and Tobago to say, you got to go see this guy in the campus. So she came to meet me there and led to an interview on her program, playing the pan. And she was fascinated because as a kid, she grew up in London, and her uncle was an ambassador in Europe, where she went and she saw an American documentary about the steel pan and culture of Trinidad and Tobago generally.
Okay.
So this was the first time she was hearing the pan live, because what she said was, when she heard the pan on the video, it sounded, very high-pitched, and it wasn't really very interesting to her as a 12-year-old kid. But when she heard me play the live pan, it blew her mind.
It was more about you then.
Well, the interview, it was a great interview that continued up to now. But that's how we met.
Okay.
So, as I told Beverly Ramsey Moore from Pan Trinbago, the pan had a lot to do with our coming together and led to 50 years of promoting Trinidad and Tobago at home and abroad. But that instrument and that story of the Taspo pan player and myself goes way back. As a matter of fact, because of that instrument, I formed a band in India called Afro Beats.
I was going to ask you, how do we get to the Afro Beats band that you were a member of with an Afro?
I needed to sustain my scholarship money because I was the president of the foreign student of Delhi University, thousands of students, and I needed to have a lot of activities. And I hosted a lot of Guyanese and Trini students at my room who were studying in India in outlying states. When they came to Delhi, they came to me, stayed with me. And I needed to make some extra money, so I decided to form a band. I had the pan and I played the drums. And I had a guy from Nigeria, two from Zimbabwe. In fact, the Zimbabwe guitarist is a brilliant guy. His brother became the first foreign minister, Zogbo, of independent Zimbabwe. He was a guitarist. And I had Kosi Sise Seko, was the daughter of one of the frontline African Union group. Kosi Sisi Siko was a fantastic singer and dancer. And she was a singer and performer in our group.
Okay.
So I formed this group called Afro Beats.
Yeah.
And I just found some photographs where the drum that I was playing has written Afrobeat. That's
Wow.
way back in
Wow.
early 1970s.
Wow. And now,
And we performed all over India with that group. We played Santana music in those days. The American ambassador at that time was an Afro-American, and his son was a genius bass guitarist. He played with us also. So it was my African friends and myself, and we had an Indian guy named Ajay who played the rhythm guitar, and we just toured all over India playing music, having a great time. But that was Afrobeats.
Uncle Chan, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I should say, Mr. Singh, you, Pan is just not it because I mean, you are a musician, right? Like you play many other instruments. How does music drive your everyday? Because it seems it is a part of that. It seems even through your work, the music is what stands out, and amazingly, or I don't know, interestingly, you play them all, and you know.
Well, let me tell you how that has helped me. I come from a very musical background to my family. From early years, I began to play music with Comancheros Combo, with the Trinidadian Orchestra, with Tassa Group. I mean, I played music since a kid. That has helped me a lot in my diplomatic career because there's no greater public relation trust than music. People may not belong to your political beliefs or your traditions. They may not belong or feel the country you come from, but music is universal. It's the most powerful universal language. And so if you happen to have the ability to play music, it singles you out in a busy diplomatic world. You know, it takes you out of the realm of the normal cocktail parties and diplomatic activities, of which there's plenty. People began to look at you and say, hey, there's something more to this guy than just his normal expected diplomatic activities and diplomatic relations. So that has helped me because when I go to a new country, I'm able to penetrate that society very quickly. Music has done it. So, and the fact that I can play a variety of instruments has helped even more because now I can get a wider circle of music friends because of the amount of instruments I can play.
Okay.
And we become friendly very quickly. Another thing is when Anita and I entertain, and especially in countries like India and China, where the diplomatic corps is huge, and the officials are busy getting invited to hundreds of events on any particular evening, within the diplomatic corps, within the business community, within the government, how do you get important officials in your host country to come to your reception? For Anita and I, music and cuisine have done it. Because people like to get away from the stereotype diplomatic reception and come to yours because they know when they come to your reception, there'll be live music and there'll be cuisine from Trinidad and Tobago. Because what Anita does, whenever we go to a new posting, she calls the kitchen staff and she teaches them Trinidad and Tobago recipes.
Wow.
So people love that. Because you can go to 100 diplomatic or cocktail receptions and you get basically the same company's catering. You come to China and India's house, you're going to get original Trini thing. And what we also do, because of Anita's talent in the creative arts, sculptures and paintings and modeling and all of that, our residences, wherever we are posted, are full of original Trinidad and Tobago artwork. And also, all that we have done in terms of music and art and culture over the years has one theme that runs through all of what we have done, and that is unity, bringing people together. When you look at Anita's sculptures and her paintings and her designs, you will see an element of unity. Focus, of course, in Trinidad and Tobago between our multi-ethnic society. But that's the story of the world. And so our receptions and our houses, we entertain 90% of our entertaining when we are representing Trinidad and Tobago abroad is in our own home.
Yeah.
That's the first impression, introducing your country to foreign audiences. So we take pain, and I'm very fortunate to have a wife who is incredibly talented in the arts and in cooking. So that had helped me a lot to create a unique Trinidad and Tobago environment where we can promote the country effectively. So all of that, the music, the culture, the arts, and just bring Trini and Tobagonian to the highest level,
Yeah.
Trinidadians at the highest level.
Understood. You talk about bringing in the music as leverage or as a way to engage other foreign um, dignitaries or other foreign agencies. The UNC just recently won their election, and from my vantage point, it seems that they use a lot of yards in their campaign. A lot of musicians, and I thought very heavily used. Was that part of the strategy? You think?
Well, I am sure it was because it was very impacting. But let me just make a point on the side, and that is I've known the Prime Minister, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, for a long time. And our friendship developed from music. People may or may not know of her deep love and involvement for music and culture, genuinely, across all cultural and ethnic lines. So I wasn't surprised at the level of cultural involvement in their campaign, in the UNC campaign. And also the theme song was a mind-boggling experience in political campaigns. That theme song cut across all lines, all ethnic groups, all generations in the country, and became a mantra and a lesson for effective campaigning. So you're absolutely correct. Music and culture played an important part in the promotion, and why not? Because if your message in politics is to get through to the people, especially in a country like Trinidad and Tobago, your best instrument should really be culture. Because that's what permeates a society. That's what really understand. Well, listen, a single calypso, the lyrics of a single calypso can beat 10 political speeches. Culture is so powerful. And so I think all political parties should use culture more in promoting their messages. Because not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but worldwide, a single song, a single instrumental music is something that impact. People listen to that more than they listen to political speeches. So why not? You have to get through to your people by using the most powerful instrument in messaging that you can. And in TNT, in this last campaign, the UNC certainly used that
Yeah.
powerfully.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think it's right down your alley. Uncle Chan, being that, well, I'm trying to formulate this thought because you were in a Afro beats band, right? You played the pan and you also drum, and uniquely, soca is a mixture of these African beats and these East Indian beats, right, to come together to make this sound, right? Well, you have any thoughts on that and where soca is today?
Sure, as a drummer, let me tell you, who've been in the business for as long as I've been, since I was a kid, as I mentioned. I played the dolak, which is one of the main Indian instruments with Indian orchestras and Indian folk music. And I also played the djembe. I demonstrated this because many years ago, when I was going to high school, some friends of mine in the village, we started a band called Indian Hotshot Orchestra. Every Christmas, when Nazim Mohammad Ali had a 610 radio program named Calling the Southland, and he had our little band from the village come and play Christmas songs and Christmas carols and Christmas hymns in that little Indian orchestra. I played the drums. And all I had to do, from the dolak to the djembe, the African influenced drum, was the emphasis on the beat. So if I try to play dadam, panakading, dadam, kanakading, on my dolak, because of the way the skins are located, it's going doom, kanakadum, doom, kanakadum, doom. That, if you listen carefully, that is the main emphasis in the rhythm between calypso and soca. So that influence has come from a long time because East Indian classical singers in the old days, in wedding nights when they were singing, the guys were singing the classical Indian songs, but the audience would get tired, especially the young audiences. They don't understand the language so well. And these songs are very technical, they're classical. So the singers would say, we'll give the audience a breakaway now. That means some upbeat sort of number that will make people dance and all of that. The dholak was exactly what soca players, Indian orchestra play today, and the rhythm that's reflected in soca rhythm comes all the way from that. And so there was a guy called Lakan Karia, long before Sundar Popo, and Cecil Fonrose, an Afro trainee from Barapo, who sang and performed soca rhythm, even in those days, long before Ras Shorty I. So I think what Ras Shorty I did was to popularize soca by going to an Indian orchestra and recording his music. He grew up in an Eastern area and he felt the rhythm. And you could see how with ease when he sang with the Indian orchestra, he was able to capitalize on the rhythm within him as a Trini. If you look at Ras Shorty I, Om Shanti Om,
Yep.
on Anita's program, he spoke about that, the rhythm. He even hummed and strummed on his guitar some of the soca rhythm that heavily borrowed from East Indian drumming. So it's a part of Trinidad and Tobago. We all borrowed from each other from ancient times. Indian orchestras borrow from Afro groups and Afro performers from Calypso. So a lot of what happens with Indian music bands today were heavily influenced by the Afro music community. So it's vice versa.
Yeah.
We are a melting pot. But I don't like to use that word melting pot because when we join together, we don't melt anything. We build something. We blend. We understand. We tolerate. We feel for each other's culture. And that's a building block. So the melting pot might have been used as part of history to connote that we are leveling society, we're bringing society together with our various art forms. But I think the time have come for us to use something more positive in terms of how we are contributing to each other's culture and to our nation and to ethnic harmony around the world.
Uncle Chan, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Listen, we'll always be uncle to you, no problem with that.
You know, this harmony through music, right? Or that you can see through music. You know, this might be a little bit difficult to speak to, but there is this Indian versus Afro, this African thing in Trinidad, right? How best do you think we or the government can combat that? Is it through music, you think? What do you think that is? 'Cause I'm not saying that it's a big deal, but I am saying that there is some of that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you're putting it mildly. There is a serious part of that in the country. And that's a good topic to focus on because we need to. I think when you look at Trinis at Carnival or at Indian functions or throughout the country, Trinidadians generally, you have to look very hard to see that separation, that division, that perceived antagonism as two main ethnic groups in the country. What I think is responsible for that and what I think could help to solve the problem from a governmental point of view is patronage. Patronage. If there's scarce resources, people always try to outcompete each other or to rival each other to share in that limited patronage. If we are able to focus more on the development of the arts and the artists by dedicating more resources to them, that antagonism is going to dissipate. It's going to get less and less and less because now people are not envying or scrambling or competing for whoever gets government patronage, who gets government help and who don't get government help. We have to make it possible for artists not to live in a world where you're trying to outpace or outscramble from each other,
Yeah.
but rather to feel comfortable because you know that you will be taken care of regardless of what ethnic group you come from or what part of the island you come from. That's solvable. That's not a big problem. And of course, it goes back to the organizations that are responsible for staging the various art forms. And that comes from the government who fund these organizations. So it has to be a total effort by the governments, by all governments and all organizations responsible for promoting the arts to try to lessen the competition and what people perceive as discrimination in how they exist as artists and what they get and how much harder they have to work to do the same thing they can do with ease and not feel that kind of division in the society.
Wow. Okay. While doing all this entertaining, right? All the music. In that process, you had three boys, two of which are musicians. Well, really, they all are
Yeah.
musicians. Yeah. Um, my good friend, um, K-Shop from Just Now, is also your son. Um, what do you have to say about what he has done and what he's been able to accomplish musically uh, as it relates to um, soca and all of the other influences that he brings into his music, and you can hear it clearly.
Yes. Well, that's interesting. Keshav, like the three boys, Sharan, Shamal, and Keshav, have been influenced by the environment wherever we've been posted. So they have a feeling for internationalism, international communities, international cultures from a very early age. Then that is reflected in Keshav's work, his composition, his own singing, and his fraternizing within the community with ease. So multi-ethnicity, multiculturalism, multi-ethnic harmony are passwords for Keshav. He feels it because he's grown up with it and it's reflected in his life and his music and the way he's loved by the performing community. And that makes Anita and I very proud because that's how we have lived. And we are happy that the boys have taken that influence forward into their own lives. And I'm happy that Keshav is able to reflect that powerfully in his creative world because he has the ability to help other soca and performing artists in Trinidad and Tobago to create a wider market internationally for themselves. And Keshav knows that well. And he has done that, remixing some of our top artists' music and in composing for some of the top artists in the country. That's very important because we have to broaden the scope of our cultural products to make a better living, bring more benefit to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago and to the artists themselves by having a wider international listening audience. And that can only come from creators whose family background, whose growing up, whose environment have been influenced by that. So yes, I am proud of what Keshav is doing. Both Anita and I are very proud of what he's doing because there is a large element of original creativity within his music and his performance. And I like the fact that people like yourself, Sizwe, and Keshav are best examples for the young artists, the young performing community to follow. Because you also take that our soca music international. You have given it international flair as well, and that to me is critical. We have carnivals around the world. Trinidad and Tobago carnivals are very famous, very popular. I was deeply involved in Notting Hill Carnival and in Miami Carnival and in Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. I was a member of the CDC and the NCC as a commissioner. And we have to exploit more of what happened in promoting our culture abroad. It is not to say that because we've been in Notting Hill for so many years, or in Labor Day Parade, or in Caribana, or in Miami Carnival for years, that we are really growing it. Because essentially, a lot of our own people patronize those celebrations, or people who migrated abroad. That's great. But that's not promoting the culture to the extent that we want to make it a major industrial trust in the world that we are promoting our culture. So people like yourself and Keshav and Kes and Marshall Montano and others are very important to take in the culture. It makes our job in the embassies, in the Trinidad and Tobago missions abroad, easier when the artists themselves portray that kind of trust and penetration into wider international societies. You will remember, and your parents, when we staged Real Colors here in Miami. So why did we stage? How did that idea came about? I got 5 first-class cruises, Anita and I, on cruise lines in exchange for 4 lectures per cruise. So I would deliver 4 lectures and we get this fantastic cruise. And in every ship that we went, Anita and I will observe Steelpan from Antigua, from the other islands, almost never from Trinidad and Tobago, playing our music, our soca, our calypso. And in one particular case on a ship, the guys were playing some recent Trinidad soca, and I went up to him and I said, "Hey, that was great, buddy. Yeah, man, this is from my island." I said, "Hey, I'm the Trinidad and Tobago Consul General." He said, "No, boss, that's from other country." So the fact is that in Real Colors, I said to myself, look, we don't need to fight our Caribbean brothers and sisters about where Pan come from, where Calypso come from, where Soca come from. We have to establish the fact that most of these art forms like Pan come from Trinidad and Tobago. And the best we can do is not to argue with people, but to perform it at the level where people know, that's where it came from. That's the real colors of this instrument and this carnival. So it's important that we not only patronize and our carnivals and our celebrations abroad, but that we make a deliberate effort to bring a wider audience to enjoy it. So in Real Colors, I staged it at the Miami Science Museum. Initially, the museum thought I was crazy. They said, we are not a cultural institution, we are a science and museum. And I said, no, but science is about humanity and culture is about humanity. So we have something in common. They allowed us to do it. And you saw the audience.
Yeah.
You saw the crowd over 3 days. What happened there is that I capitalized on the huge thousands of people on the Miami Science Museum invitation list. That was something from a strategical point of view, very, very important. Because I knew, having said what I said just now about penetrating wider societies to promote our culture, to make it more commercially viable, I did that as an experiment for our audiences and our artists to see, and other people who are responsible for promoting Trinidad and Tobago culture as an example of what we need to do. If you have it at the usual roti shop or the jerk chicken shop or wherever, only the Trinidadians come, but the Jamaican and the Caribbean people. And in most cases, they have their booze and their food in the trunk anyhow. So the artists, depending on these cultural promotion events to make a living for themselves, will find it very hard. But as you saw in the Science Museum for Real Colors, all the product was sold out by 4 o'clock because these foreigners wanted to taste this Trini thing.
Partake.
Yes. So commercially, it was very successful, and we were able to penetrate a wider society. When I staged the program the following year at the James All Night Center, I insisted that the show is going to start at 7:30. Everybody said to me, "Consul General, that won't happen. You know, we people that come 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock." I said, "Buddy, this is not going to happen like that." I am staging it at James L. Night Center that has a patronage by the wider non-Caribbean community. And I bet you they will come at 7:30. The audience was filled with foreigners at 7:30. At 10 o'clock, and people were coming in and they were, oh my God, the show is all on the way. That's what we have to do. We have to create new spaces for our culture and ourselves. New spaces are critical. And that's not going back to the same venues where only our people come, but going to venues that take you to the mainstream population, wherever you're promoting this culture.
When trying to create new spaces, right, and involve new people, how important is it, in your eyes, that explaining or defining that this thing is Trinidadian or this thing is Jamaican, right? How important is that from a broader perspective, right? From a worldly perspective? Is that the most important thing, or is it promoting the thing, the pan and soca or the dancehall or the reggae or the ska or the compa?
Well, that's a very critical question. Critical in the sense of trying to deal with a problem that we face in the same context of trying to establish that we are the originators of a lot of the art forms that now become universal. Well, let me go back to Real Colors. If you saw what I did there, first we had a whole workshop showing the public how pan is made by Trinis. We had an Indian wedding, a mock Indian wedding, a staged Indian wedding, showing how the tassa is used in Indian weddings, where it really came from. Now we play tassa as a solo instrument and for all kinds of shows in TNT. But tassas really came from the ceremonies associated with East Indian weddings. You saw at Real Colors, I had an African wedding stage on the event. So, if we want to show some of our Afro influence, original music of TNT, calypso, pan, our element of drumming and things like that from the Afro community, bamboo tambu or whatever, you're going to show it in the context of a live program that belongs to our traditions, our cultural traditions. So an African wedding helps to establish Trinidad and Tobago input into all of these Afro-influenced art forms. An Indian wedding helps to do that with the tassa. And so we can expand that to incorporate other aspects of our culture in the country, but in the context of how this came about. So when you show people how the pan is made, it dissipates or it negates the controversy about where it came from, who originated pan. We have to do that by practical examples. Also, in the case of pan, apart from showing how we make pan, where it originated, since we have a lead start, since we are the inventors of this instrument and the music, I don't think anybody in the world could play pan like Trinis and Tobagonians. Nobody. Why? That's what we have to focus on. We have to outperform the discussion, outperform the argument in terms of what we do. When I went to Japan as ambassador, the Japanese are becoming the world's best jazz pan people. Because as you remember, Japanese used to come to Trinidad and Tobago and recruit the Panorama winning band and take them to Japan for 6 months. They built huge studios where they recorded and learned and try to master the technology. They make pan mechanically now by factories. They can't touch Trinis because you still need that guy with a hammer to go out there and tune that pan. And you still need people with a history of pan in their blood, in their bone, to play the way Trinis play. Anybody who has doubt from where Steelpan come from need to come to a panorama. And that will win the argument right there. But look, another example. Junior Regolo just won the Guinness World Record for the longest playing pan man in history. That's winning the argument. You can tell people as much as you want the Trini pan belong to us and all of that. That is the kind of activities we need to do. That's the kind of discussion or debate we have to have by actually
But
doing
my
it.
question to you is that what's important?
I think that's important because pan has become universal now. Soca has become universal. And now with AI, who owns what has become a bigger question ever.
Well, you see, the thing is who owns the guitar?
Right. That's a good point. So soon the whole question of who owns the pan will become the same question. Who owns
Yeah,
the
it
violin?
belongs
and
to the
guitar?
world today,
Right.
And we want to get that instrument or
Right.
the instrument to play in all genres of music, right? To be a part of all things, and not,
Right.
at least from my vantage point, not just simply in a pan symphony, you know.
No, you have to be able to fuse the instrument with other music, other instruments, other cultures. But more than anything else, you have to take advantage of who we are with that particular instrument or that particular cultural activity. And that's best demonstrated by the fact that when you are born, when you come to generations and generations of a particular cultural practice, people will recognize that you are the authentic person. You know, when Marshall Montano sing, or when you sing your soca, or when Keisha performs, you can tell these guys come from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, I think they say that guy's Canadian, but that's just me. Uncle Chan, you had a key role in Miami as it relates to Miami Carnival.
Yes.
And its separation and bringing it back. When we look at Miami Carnival today, is Miami Carnival the best carnival in North America?
In assigning a particular status to Carnival, whether it's here or in London or wherever, has to do with what is happening right now with those respective carnivals, right now. For example, one of the raging issues on Carnival right now is the kind of, the lack of costumes that bands parade with. It's not the kind of carnival that we in Trinidad and Tobago want to be proud of to promote worldwide. because we're losing a major element of carnival, and that's costumes. Now, let's come back to your question. Is Miami Carnival the best carnival? I wouldn't single out any particular carnival to be the best carnival abroad because of the fact that I find that the promoters do not invest back into the festivals the kind of patronage they get from the community. Let me expand on that. Before I played a key role in uniting the Miami Carnival, everybody knew that the Miami Carnival was divided for years and years and years. And so they were losing a lot of money and a lot of patronage, and it was a very uncomfortable event for the Caribbean community and for Trinidad and Tobago in particular. So now we helped to bring the carnival together. And now you see the crowds are massive. And I would imagine, I don't know, because I have no idea what the revenue and the expenses and the accounting is. But I can see from my attendance at those events that the revenue generation must be huge. Now, is a lot of that resources pumped back into carnival to improve the carnival, to make it something that Trinidad, and let's face it, across the board, there's criticism about the quality of bands that we see in carnival. Not necessarily in terms of the numbers of players in particular bands, but the costuming in particular, and what those bands are, how much they are approximating the carnival that we say we are proud of promoting around the world. Are we really promoting genuine Trinidad and Tobago carnival around the world in the Miami and in other carnivals? That's a big question. I am particularly disappointed because I took the risk and I made the effort to help in uniting the Miami Carnival. And now I would like to take pleasure and I should like to be proud when I look at the Miami Carnival and say, hey, I helped to make something that really, really should make every Trinidad and Tobago national proud of this is a carnival that we want to see promoted abroad to represent Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know if that's happening. I'm not satisfied personally that that's really happening. And I think the responsibility should be more on the organizers of the carnival, especially since we helped them to be where they are today. Had it not been for the uniting the carnival, you know what happened? They were kicked out of every city around here and never went back there because no city want to host a fighting organization. They want to host an organization that represents the best for the host city and for the country that they claim they're representing. That wasn't happening until the unity of Miami Carnival. Well, so we have united the carnival. It's a stronger carnival. They're sticking to one venue. I can see a lot of hard work going into it. To manage a massive event like that is hard work. My question is, are we really utilizing the best out of this major cultural event, this major carnival, to improve the carnival itself? How that can happen probably calls for accountability. It probably calls for a greater relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and the Miami Carnival and the other carnivals. As Consul General, I belabored that point, both to my government and in terms of my own activities as Consul General. And that is that we make it, Trinidad and Tobago make tokenism out of our foreign carnival. We send some delegations and we give some patronage. The private sector, the beer companies and the rum companies make better contribution and more contribution to the carnivals than we probably do as a government. But if even the government would spend some more resources, financial resources behind the Miami Carnival and the other major carnivals, that's not going to do the justice to what we're hoping will be done. And that is to say that just not the funding, but the follow-up activities, the coordination of the private sector, of the industrial sector with the carnival. If one of the aims of our carnival is to promote our products abroad, which is real, that's a real opportunity, then the coordination between the private sector companies, the government, and the carnival must be more meaningful. It can't be just by, we feel we can give you appeal, you actually beg sometimes to get some patronage from companies in TNT and then give you a patronage like really a patronage. They must see their interest in the carnival as well.
Okay.
From promoting the product to the level where it becomes widely promoted. Sometimes we are beaten by Guyana 15-year-old and Jamaica Mount Gay and Barbados Mount Gay and Jamaica Captain Morgan because of the fact that I think We are so spoiled by our own carnival, selling large volume of products. We don't produce enough for the foreign markets. So if you're hoping that the carnivals will help to produce our products, and you don't produce the products to satisfy the market or to promote it the way it should, then we are missing the main point as far as the industry is concerned. Now, you've done that for Carib, and I see some trends now. The Carib is, and some of our product companies are appointing local trainees in the various carnivals to promote the product. That's a beginning, but more of that needs to be done.
Some of my viewers, this subject has come up in the last couple of interviews. Miami Carnival. I find Miami Carnival, and I say it because I mean it. It's the truth to me that I find Miami Carnival to be top tier. Now, many of my viewers don't agree, and I could say that based off of the comments in the comment section. But there are many that do. But one of the complaints that seems to come up the most, and one of the questions that I was asked to ask you today, is how do we get back the road? And I guess my question to you is, how important is the road and that road experience for the development or for the betterment of the carnival?
Well, I think the carnival itself has to be, the carnival management has to be more democratic. I don't know if it is or not, but I'm saying that generally for all foreign carnivals, and including Miami. More inclusive. You know, there comes a time in an organization where you have to probably go beyond the membership, the executive committees of these events, and look for talent and capabilities beyond that. So sometimes you have to say, okay, all people like to say, I've been in this organization for 50 years, I've been for 60 years, and hold on, buddy. The art of promoting, the technique of promoting, the world of understanding the world of business changes from generation to generation. And we probably have many, many people in our diaspora communities who can promote anything, including the carnival, better than the guy who has been there for 50 years. But we still tend to reward that. We tend to say, if you've been an insider in a circle for so many years, that's it. Nobody could change you from that role. Well, I'm not saying to move people who have been there and who've dedicated their whole life and history to a particular event not to be there. But I'm saying that you have to bring new blood into the organization. You have to tap resources and talent and expertise from outside into the organization. And let me make a very strong statement on that. Unless any organization, including the Miami Carnival, adopt that principle, they're not going to move at the pace that our culture can move. Because if we are living in a more connected, interconnected world today, and so when you have a Miami Carnival, you have to imagine that that's being broadcast around the world through the internet, through the new, So you have to grow the carnival itself to match that kind of new awakening, that new wider market internationally, to format the event and to promote it in a way that it can capitalize on a new environment that can bring you far more rewards and resources than we're getting right now only at that particular venue. So that can only come with expertise that matches this generation and this world today that we are living in. I'm saying that because I know we come through, all of that came through that we tend to reward those who've been there for a long time. That's unshakable.
Yeah.
That cannot, an organization today cannot survive on that basis and that principle. You have to bring in new blood, inject new blood of people, young people who will ask questions and who will take you further on by opening up the organization to greater opportunities, wider accountability, better promotional, and dealing with some of the advantages that come today in a multi-ethnic, multicultural world where people are thirsty for culture and they're going to come. But you have to present something new to them. You can't present same old all the time.
But I asked you, and I hear that, and not trying to diminish that, but I asked you about this road aspect, right? And how important do you think that the road, being on the road, and as it relates to the freedom piece of Carnival, right? This piece that is super important, I think, because that is what Carnival is. It's this expression of freedom, right?
Yes.
Through this Camberley riots and not taking
Right,
you saying, no, you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And the people rioted right? And this is how this carnival thing, what we see today, kind of came about. And then again, some of the complaints or some of the questions that have been posed to me is, we want the road, and so I guess I'm asking, is it important? Is that really important? Or the fact that we have the carnival, that we have this this tool that we use to unite our communities, is that enough?
Well, I missed the point that you were speaking about the physical road. I thought you were talking about the figurative road, but that's very important. Me personally, I think carnivals must be given the facility that came through the generations. And the road is important for the parade of carnival, not a particular venue like a major rock concert or something in a particular venue. When we went, Anita and I went to Brazil, to the Mangueira school, carnival school, we look at the parade. We have an advantage. To me, I didn't see the whole of Brazil carnival, but judging from Rio, we have an advantage in that our carnival is not necessarily restricted to a particular venue and a stage. It's the whole country, it's all the streets of Port of Spain. Carnival people come alive when they do their thing more on the road parade. Sure, we jump up when we get on the stage at the moment as a high point, but the parade itself on the streets of the country is what carnival came from, and that's what you should go back to. Now, if our carnivals abroad have to create a better relationship with their host cities, where there may be more regulations here, more restrictions to street parades than we have in Trinidad and Tobago, where the government just manages from a distance carnival. Carnival is self-perpetuating. They manage themselves on the street throughout the country. Here abroad, we will have some problems because of the fact that you have to go through different government entities to get permissions and all of that. But we are a talented people, and we know how to negotiate if we want to negotiate. And that calls for demonstrating to the whole city that this product can benefit them tremendously, more than we are benefiting them now. Secondly, that they can help the cities, the whole cities, to achieve their goals of bringing communities together, empowering communities and all of that. It has to show them that this will show the city in a better light worldwide, more promotional opportunities for the city. We have to embark upon and develop the skills for that kind of negotiations. So that we don't say, boy, we can't parade too far from the venue because the police will let us go. Listen, negotiations can make anything happen if you make those who are negotiating feel the importance of the event to themselves. And that's the cities and the counties that you're parading in. We have to, that's why I'm saying, if you need to bring in negotiators, people who are highly skilled negotiators who are not probably part of your executive committee to help you to achieve that, who have the ability and the art to negotiate with the city and the police and the county to give you more parade facilities to approximate and bring back the real tradition of carnival, then get those people in your organization.
Yeah.
To me, that's critical because we can't keep the carnival at the same level. So the carnival here draw large crowds. But a lot of people will probably not want to pay carnival in the past if what they see here is what the total carnival is. A lot of people have been captured in their minds the carnivals of Trinidad and Tobago. So a lot of them go back home because that's where they get a feeling for, this is a real carnival. We must try to transport that some of that here too, rather than just you pay a lot of money to join the bands. You assemble just before the venue, you perform over the stage, and a couple of feet over the venue, your carnival is over. Your carnival is over because that's really what it is. It's a single venue and a stage where your whole parade, it's not coming through. Well, the carnival organizations have a problem. They have to negotiate, as I mentioned, a lot of negotiation with the authorities to give them wider performing facilities. But that's where you need the art and you need the skill and you need the experts who can do that.
Yeah.
Well, for Miami Carnival, I introduced Miami Carnival into Broward County. So when the county people were not too happy about bringing Carnival in there because they heard from other cities what happened in the past. But we were going to Broward while I was working for Broward County. I belonged to the Carnival and was able to convince them that this has tremendous advantage. But we were lucky in Broward that we have a huge perimeter, a road around the 110 acres where the bands can parade, which they did while I was there the first year, and felt that they were parading on a street carnival. So that's an advantage. It can happen.
Okay. I just have a couple more questions before I let you go. You, while you were the consulate general, you also developed what is known as the cricket park, Broward Regional Park. Um, why was that important to you?
That was very important to my whole career here as Consul General. And it demonstrated something that I left here as a legacy. That when I was Consul General, I've done my entire diplomatic posting in every...
As a side note, the Broward Regional Park is where the Juve is also held.
Right. So to me, that's an important question because it gives me an opportunity to explain something that the wider community probably is not aware of. And that is that I try to do some landmark things. I try to create think outside of the box in whatever I did here as Consul General. The interest of my government in promoting the country is important, but I wanted to help the Trinidad and Tobago primarily and the wider Caribbean community to build something that can be a lasting legacy. That cricket stadium was born out of that effort. Real colors, which I took to the Science Museum, to JNU University, and to Bayside Park. Three celebrations for 3 years. I got that Union Bank building to be lit red, white, and black for an entire week, creating highlight for real colors and for the community and for Trinidad and Tobago. I didn't have to pay a penny because I had the ability to negotiate with the county for that. So the cricket stadium came about because in that same attitude, I produced a document with Anita's help. She did the drawings and all of that. Said a Caribbean marketplace in which we produce a venue that will have a carnival, cricket, art and craft, and other activities from the Caribbean, where if you cannot afford to go there because of time factor or you can't afford to pay, we'll bring the Caribbean to you here in South Florida. Now, that was something was produced after that. I did that in the Miami Herald. Then I went to different commissioners. Me and Joy from Joy Roti Shop pounded the pavement. We went to Lauderhill Mall. And we went to other facilities looking for sponsorship to build this facility. I went to Joe Eggleston, who was a commissioner, and presented the project to him. He took us to 441 and Sheridan Street Junction, where there's a big water tank, and he showed us a big piece of government land there and said, you can build the facility here, the cricket stadium and everything. One of the members of the delegation I took there was Ed King, who owned Precision Environmental. He called me back after a week and said, it will take millions of dollars to clean up that place because of pollution. I went back to Joe Eggleston and began to, don't forget I was working for the city of Lauderhill at that time. And the facility is owned by the Central Regional Park with the cricket stadium is owned by Broward County but located in the city of Lauderhill. I was working for the Lauderhill. And so I worked with both the county and the Lauderhill from Joy Leadership, and I scaled the barbed wire and went to that same facility where the Central Broward Regional Park is. Looked at it, it was all sand and dilapidated and neglected. And I began to approach the county and the commissioners for support to do it. And then the World Cup came. The possibility of the USA getting games from the World Cup that came to the West Indies. Broward County became very interested. Their interest peaked because they saw, oh my God, so they financed and they employed me. They financed the building of the Central Broward Cricket Park. The rest is history.
Okay.
The point I want to come back to is the point you made, and that is that what the county is enjoying today in the city and the Caribbean community here through cricket games came from my initiative that I published and went to different people because I wanted to leave a legacy as the TNT Consul General for the Caribbean community, and it has turned out to be that. That's only one of different initiatives I did here as a TNT Consul General. And I wish to advise all my future Consul Generals coming here, not only from Trinidad and Tobago, but from the rest of the Caribbean. The challenge is not only behind your desk, producing what substantively is your portfolio. The challenge is how you can think original, how you can get out there and explore opportunities that are not there right now to benefit our community. To think beyond the box and to go out there and inspire others to follow you, to build lasting monuments for Caribbean people.
Yeah.
The cricket stadium is one, but there are many other things I did which are lasting monuments for the community here in South Florida.
Awesome. Uncle Chan, the UNC won. Is there a place for the Honorable Chandradath Singh?
Well, I hope so, because let's face the fact. I am perhaps one of the longest serving diplomats in the history of independent Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
My first posting was under Dr. Eric Williams to England. My letter was signed by Dr. Eric Williams, appointing me to the High Commission in London.
Wow.
And I've served continuously since then, when I took a break to do the Broward County Central Regional Park Cricket Stadium project. So I have this distinction of having served every single government as a diplomat in independent Trinidad and Tobago, including my last posting, which was in China as ambassador. I was there for 7 months under the PNM government. I've served PNM, UNC, NAR, everybody else. I think when I look at this present UNC government and the projects and the programs that they're implementing, I feel that there's a role for me there. I know that the UNC government has appreciated what I did in the past, as the NAR government. I'm not sure if the elements within the PNM government really appreciated issues like what I'm mentioning here. And I'm afraid in our country, in our diplomatic service in particular, people see you for who appointed you. So the fact that I was appointed by every single government in independent TNT, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, this guy was appointed by UNC, he's a UNC guy. He was appointed by NAR, he's a NAR guy. But they forgot that for the greater part of my career, I work under a PNM government. So I serve every government.
Yeah.
I will be very happy. In fact, I will be more happy now to serve this UNC government because I've seen elements of their plans and their programs and the manifesto that I think I fit in perfectly with, and I appreciate, and I want to support. So I hope so.
That's awesome. Well, I want to wish you absolute good luck with that. I think that I think you might have a place for Daddy too. Because he needs to get to work. He's been retired for a little while, and I think he could do with a little, I don't know, a little challenge, something to do.
I can find no better person to help to promote Trinidad and Tobago culture in South Florida than Frank Collins.
Okay.
I work with him closely. I appreciate his advice. I bounce off everything out of Frank because he is a community leader of par excellence. He's been involved with the carnival. He's made major contributions. As a matter of fact, Frank Collins and a few other stalwarts in the community are the ones who came to me when I was appointed Consul General here to intervene in uniting the carnival. And I remember saying to them, I can't do it because I've just come, and carnival is seen as a controversial thing, and I didn't want to jump into it because my government may not have approved it. But Frank Collins, and the others who came with him were able to convince me that we couldn't waste another year to wait for you to get involved. You need to get involved now because we are hurting. The community is hurting. The carnival is hurting. That's how I jumped into it. So I credit him. And my friendship with him has remained since then on a very solid cultural basis. I can't find anybody else better to work. I hope they can rope him into the office here to work. I
am vouching for you, right? You see it. You get a little.
No, but apart from personal connections, I think I made the point earlier on. That if you want to develop the carnival further, you have to have people who have a certain expertise that can help you, who are not necessarily in a committee, who can help you to do that. I will personally recommend Frank Collins anytime, because I've had all these years of experience working with him, and I know what he can do if he gets in there. So I hope this message gets to the right people.
Yeah.
To make sure that this.
He want to go to India, to China, wherever you get to go. I think that's where he wants to go. Uncle Chan, I just want to say thank you for lending the podcast your time I think what we talked about today was very insightful. Um, Oftentimes, I think we get microwave information very fast, and the foundation is not there. And I think today you gave some foundation, some history uh, uh, that lends itself to pointing out what is important and what we should be focused on. And so I just want to say thank you for that.
Sure.
Thanks for coming on the show on What They Do platform. And we absolutely appreciate you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yo, you're absolutely welcome. So that was the Honorable Chandradath Singh on What They Do. Do me a favor, go ahead and like, subscribe, and tune in next time. You never know who we're going to get. So once again, What They Do.